The ballroom sparkled with chandeliers, laughter, and the clinking of champagne glasses. Waitstaff in white gloves moved gracefully between billionaires and celebrities at the prestigious Havenbrook Foundation Gala. The night was meant to celebrate innovation and wealth, but it was a janitor who would end up stealing the spotlight. Daniel Cole, a single father in his late 30s, quietly swept the marbled floor near the stage. Tall and lean with rough hands and tired eyes, he wore the same blue janitor uniform every day, patched at the elbows, and a name badge that had faded years ago. No one paid him much attention, until tonight. "Hey, janitor," a young tech mogul chuckled, half-drunk, gesturing toward the elegant cello resting backstage. "Why don't you play us something? I bet you don't even know which end goes where." A ripple of snickers spread through the small crowd nearby. Daniel paused, straightened, and locked eyes with the cello. He hesitated. Then, quietly, he said, "Sure." A hush fell over the room, curious and mocking. Daniel walked to the cello like he'd done it 1,000 times, because he had. Long before the night shifts and diapers, before his wife's cancer, before selling every possession to keep their small house, he was a cellist with dreams. The cello had been his sanctuary, his prayer, his voice. He sat down, adjusted the peg, and let out a long breath. Then he played. Not flashy. Not loud. But achingly beautiful. It was Bach's Cello Suite No. 1, but slower, tender. Notes wept from the strings and filled the cavernous room like sunlight breaking through clouds. Conversations stopped. Waiters froze mid-pour. Even the billionaire who jeered him earlier now stared, mouth slightly open. At the center of the crowd, Eleanor Whitmore, an 82-year-old billionaire philanthropist known for her icy demeanor and diamond-studded cane, stood still, one hand trembling against her glass. Tears welled in her eyes. She stepped forward. "That was the piece my husband played at our wedding. I haven't heard it since he passed," she whispered. Daniel looked up, surprised. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "No," she interrupted. "You brought him back, just for a moment." The crowd didn't cheer. They stood. A standing ovation, not for fame, not for power, but for truth. For something pure. By the next morning, the video had gone viral. Janitor Cello Miracle was trending. But Daniel didn't care about the fame. What mattered to him was back home, his 8-year-old daughter Lily, who had never seen him play. "Daddy," she whispered that night, crawling into his lap, "play for me too." So he did. In their tiny living room, with a second-hand cello gifted by Eleanor Whitmore herself, and a heart filled with new hope. Soon after, Eleanor created a scholarship in his name, the Daniel Cole Music Fellowship, for underprivileged musicians. Daniel never returned to mopping floors at the gala. Instead, he cleaned something far greater that night. The laughter stung more than the words. Daniel Cole, mop in hand, paused mid-swipe on the glossy ballroom floor of the Havenbrook Foundation Gala. The question hadn't been kind, it had been bait. A dare wrapped in mockery. He turned to see a group of young elites in tuxedos, gathered around a grand cello resting unattended on the edge of the stage. "Yeah," one chimed in. "You ever even seen a cello before?" Daniel offered a small, weary smile. "Actually, I used to play." That sparked more laughter. But something in his voice stopped one person cold. Standing near the back of the crowd was Eleanor Whitmore, a silver-haired billionaire philanthropist with a heart hardened by years of business and grief. Her late husband had been a cellist, a gentle soul who'd brought warmth to her otherwise calculated world. That cello was part of her private collection. Tonight, it was meant to be a centerpiece. No one had touched it yet. "You play," the firstman repeated, clearly amused. "Prove it." "Right here." Daniel's first instinct was to decline. He was just the janitor, not part of the party. But then he thought of his daughter Lily at home, 8 years old, artistic, curious, and always asking, "Daddy, what did you used to dream about?" So, he nodded. Daniel walked up, removed his gloves, and slowly took the cello in his arms. The moment his fingers touched the strings, something shifted in the air. Even the drunkest guest sensed it. The first note rang out, a soft, low hum that seemed to wrap around the room like an embrace. And then he played. Bach's Suite No. 1 in G major, but not as it was written. Daniel played it with pain and hope, with memories soaked into every measure, memories of the conservatory he had to leave, the street performances he played for diapers and formula, the silence that followed his wife's final breath, and the years he spent cleaning up after a world that had forgotten him. The crowd fell still. Phones were raised. Not in mockery this time, but reverence. Eleanor Whitmore stepped forward, her diamond earrings catching the light, her eyes catching tears. "That song," she whispered. "My husband played that for me the night he proposed." Daniel faltered for a second, stunned. He looked up at her, cello bow quivering in his fingers. "I didn't know." "You couldn't have," she said, her voice catching. "But you brought him back to me. If only for a moment." A long silence followed, then thunderous applause. Daniel didn't bow. He gently placed the cello back on its stand and walked off the stage, returning to his cart like nothing had happened. But everything had changed.